the light comes your Harris Horror Hour podcast on this dark and stormy night.
Hello and welcome to episode number 2 of the Harris Horror Hour. We made it to the second episode. We're going to change up the format a little bit. I'm here with my siblings, Rage and Rose.
Hello.
Clockwork Chrissy.
Yo.
And of course, Bloodbath Bobby. I was about to say Brutal Bobby, but I like Bloodbath. We're going to stick with that. We're going to start out with our recent views, stuff we've recently watched. For me, I just finished Satan's Little Helper the other day, and Rage and Rose, you seem to hate on that movie. What is the problem with that movie to you?
It sucked.
What sucked about it?
It was just stupid.
I thought it was a nice little Halloween movie.
No.
And I watched the ABCs of Death, not including what we're going to be reviewing tonight. I watched ABCs of Death, and I wasn't really that impressed with that. But we're going to head over to Clockwork Chrissy now. What have you watched recently?
The last horror movie I watched was rewatching Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the original one with Bill Moseley and Dennis Hopper.
Classic.
Chop top.
Rage and Rose, any hate for that movie?
No, I like that movie.
Okay, you better. All right, Rage and Rose, what have you watched recently?
I have recently watched
Tick tock, tick.
Yeah, I can't think.
Oh, Brain Part. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Oh, I watched Zodiac the other day.
Love it.
I've never seen it.
It's one of my favorite movies.
Oh my god.
No, I'm gonna have to check it out. I gotta have I know it's like 2 hours, 2 or 3.
Yeah,
2.5 hours,
Yeah.
but it's great.
I gotta find 2.5 hours to kill to watch that.
And acting is great in it also.
All right. Now we're gonna move into our first movie review of the night, which is an Alfred Hitchcock classic. First, we're going to give you the trailer, and then we're going to go into the movie.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
Do you have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies. You know, this is the first place that looks like it's hiding from the world. I think that we're all in our private traps, clamped in them. And none of us can ever get out. Is anyone at home? Oh, that must be my mother. Is anything wrong?
Am I acting as if there's something wrong?
She's not missing so much as she's run away.
Put me down. Mother! Oh, God! Mother!
What are you running away from? She looked like a wrong one to you? It's not as if she were a maniac. She just goes a little mad sometimes.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
As I said before, this movie is directed by Alfred Hitchcock, starring Anthony Perkins, Janet Leigh, Vera Miles.
This movie was released on September 8th, 1960, and the total film budget was $800,000.
Okay, here is a brief synopsis from IMDb on the movie Psycho. Directed by Alfred Hitchcock from 1960. A Phoenix secretary steals $40,000 from her employer's client, goes on a run and checks into a remote motel run by a young man under the domination of his mother. I believe that's a pretty good synopsis there. This movie, I watched it. The collection I watched was the limited edition Alfred Hitchcock Essentials collection. And to me, there are things in this movie that really stand out. First off, we start out with the character Marion. We go into her window. She is with her boyfriend Sam. They're talking about getting married and everything. We move forward from there and we go into Marion's job at the bank. She steals $40,000 from a guy who is pretty much, bragging about he'll buy his daughter or anything. And this is where the story really sets off. Marion then goes on a run with $40,000, and $40,000, I can't remember what the equivalent is today's cash, what it was back then, but we'll figure that out in a few. We go from there to Marion being stopped by a sheriff. Marion then goes to a dealership, changes her car, which to me is it's kind of a creepy scene if you think about it. Why do you think the cop patrolled her? Why do you think he went after her? Clockwork Chrissy?
I think he just thought something was wrong with her, and that's why he was watching her, just the way she was acting.
What about
Kinda
you?
Suspicious.
What about you, Rachel Rose?
I'd have to agree. She's probably acting really suspicious, and, maybe they got a description or something.
Well, he did wake her up from the side of the road, and she rushed him off. But that part with the cop, that, kind of creepy in the music.
Yeah.
The score of this movie definitely sets it off. But we go from the car trade at the dealership, and, the dealer's pretty much telling her, I never had a customer rush me for a car. We go from there to Marion making it to the Bates Motel. And
Dun, dun, dun.
any thoughts on the motel?
Very creepy, just like any other random side of the road little hotel like that.
What about you, Rose? Same?
Yeah, just...
Well, what about our funny little story of our Bates Motel? How about that one? We'll get into that another time.
I don't want to talk about that.
From here, Marion, in the pouring down rain, meets Norman Bates. And what do you ladies think of Norman? Me personally, I think he's a bright young man. Seems like a nice guy.
He's a little peculiar.
I think he's a freak.
Why do you think he's a freak?
He seems too,
Odd.
So you find nothing attractive about a young Norman?
No, not at all.
Clockwork?
No.
Huh? Alright. From here, Norman introduces himself. He offers her a meal. They talk in the parlor for a little bit. And then the parlor's where we get all of our best lines. We get the infamous lines in that. A mother is a boy's best friend. We all go a little mad sometimes. Pretty much classic lines in this. We go from there, though, to Marion getting the key to her room number 1.
Mm-hmm.
She gets the key, goes in, gets a shower, and we see that Norman is a...
Her.
Yeah, what is the word? Voyeur? Yeah. Norman's a voyeur who has a peephole in his office right behind, what is it, a bird? A picture of a bird, I believe, right? A peephole. And, I don't know, Clockwork, you want to take it from here? What did we see after that?
Well, after the shower scene, Norman cleans up everything that happens in the shower scene.
But the shower scene, I know it's very debatable, but is that not one of the most infamous scenes in a horror movie?
Yes, it is.
Raging Rose?
Yeah.
Alright, we go from there. Norman cleans up. And we find out that Marion, who we thought would be the leading lady in this,
Hmm.
it turns out she's not much of a leading lady after all.
Nope.
After she realizes the error of her ways, going to turn over a new leaf, return the money. You see she subtracted the total of what she spent on the car off of what she stole. And, Marion pays the price for her mistakes. We go from there, and Lila, Marion's sister, confronts Samuel, who is Marion's boyfriend, and they both hire a private eye who goes and checks up on things. And the private eye, he wants to meet Mrs. Bates.
Yep, but Norman refuses, because his mother's a very sick lady.
Virgin Rose, anything to add to that?
I just thought it was funny when he first came to the hotel and was trying to, find out if Marion went there, and Norman was lying the whole time, and he just opened up the book and was like, "Oh no, this is her handwriting. She was here. This is her." After he said he hasn't had anybody in like 2 or 3 weeks, then it changed to, "Oh yeah, I forgot."
That and then the picture, Norman saying, "Well, it was raining," and that's not a very good picture.
Yeah.
I think the private eye knew something was up, and Norman, like Clockwork Chrissy said, that Mrs. Bates is an invalid, and she's sick, very ill, and the private eye, he pretty much kept trying to weasel his way to talk to Mrs. Bates, and that didn't quite work out the way he wanted.
No, it didn't work out for him too well.
Yeah, we'll just leave that at that. We go from there, and we find out something peculiar when Sam and Lila Crane question the sheriff. And we find out a little bit about Norman and his mother.
Mm-hmm.
That,
couple details.
yeah, we weren't really led to believe earlier on in the movie. Going from there, we have Sam and Lila check into the Bates Motel. And to me, you could tell that they were trying to back Norman into a corner.
Yeah, trying to get some information without saying who they were exactly.
Yeah, and Norman pretty much, he wasn't backing down.
Mm-hmm.
But from there, Sam and Lila split up, and Sam pretty much interrogates Norman some more, and Lila goes into the house, Norman's home, and she searches for Mrs. Bates. As Lila's in the house looking around, she sees, I believe Norman, what did Norman hit Sam with? Was it a flower pot?
No, it was one of his stuffed creatures.
His taxidermy projects, okay. We go to the fruit cellar, and we get a reveal that we're not going to give you. But I think it's well worth to me, this movie it has stood the test of time. It's still a classic. IMDb rated this in the top 250 movies, and that goes by viewer votes. It ranks number 32 on IMDb's top 250 movies. I, quite frankly, think it should be a little higher, but horror don't get the love it deserves sometimes. Before we go into ratings, I want to let people out there know that you can rent this on Amazon for $3 or buy it for $10, and it's on Hulu on web only. We're going to go into the ratings now, and Raging Rose, what is your rating for Psycho?
I have to say about an 8 out of 10.
An 8 out of 10.
Yeah, just because, to us, we grew up a whole different generation, and this isn't as horrifying to us as it would have been back then. If I was alive back in 1960 when it was released and saw it, it could have been the scariest movie I ever saw. But I mean, I don't think it's that terrifying.
Well, is there anything else about this movie that really stands out to you?
It's a good movie. I don't doubt that at all. It's a great movie. It's a great story, but I just don't think it's, you know.
You don't think it's held up?
No, I think it's held up well. Also, it's just I don't think it's quite as scary. You know, it's more of a mystery kind of thing. You know, like a whodunit.
Good point. Good point. Clockwork, your rating and.
I give Psycho a 10 out of 10. I loved how Alfred Hitchcock filmed it, and I loved the music score. Like Bobby said earlier, it is a great music score and sets the tone throughout the whole movie. I love Janet Leigh, as she is one of the greatest scream queens and one of the first. I love the twist of the movie, and the scene in the fruit cellar is one of my favorites. And like Rose said, that back in the 1960s, when this was released, it would have probably been scary, because how many people went on family trips and had to stay at little creepy motels all the time, or go on business trips, and then after seeing this, they probably had a different view or cut back on that stuff.
I can't imagine there being many Holiday Inns and stuff like that, Days Inns back then.
Yeah, so it was little stuff like this. Random people.
Yeah.
That's understandable. Well, I meant to mention this before. Angry Al is not with us. She's going to be taking care of our toys segment from now on. But I can't seem to find her rating right off for this one. I do believe, I want to say she gave it an 8, but I'll double check with her. We'll figure that out. My rating now, I give this movie a 9.5. There's only one negative thing I could really say about it, and that's the explanation at the end of the movie by the psychiatrist, or the psych man. What was that?
It was like a psychiatrist, I guess.
I could have did without that, but I could understand that what's going on in this movie wasn't that common back then. So I can understand him explaining everything.
Mm.
But to a modern audience, it's like, are we really that stupid? But hey, some people may be. And not saying people are stupid, but
Back then, they didn't have as much problems in medicine and all that stuff that we have now.
exactly. But I love, like you said, I love the way the movie is filmed. I really love the parlor scene, and I love the shower scene. There's one other scene I really don't like, and that's the private eye, the stairs scene.
Why not?
It's a little hokey.
I like that.
It's a little hokey.
You know what? I
Yeah,
like
but
that
for
scene.
back then,
I
Back
like
then,
that scene.
It's good, and that's the thing with Hitchcock. Like, yeah, he's the master of suspense. So technically, I don't know. To me, it is a horror, but I can see where some people don't categorize it as one. You know. Think of how many slashers there were back then, though. This and Peepin' Tom. I've never seen Peepin' Tom, so I'm not going to talk too much, but I know that was one of the old classics. Still got to check that one out. But, anything else you ladies need to say about Psycho? All I'm going to say is I really recommend this movie for all you listeners out there.
Don't let the black and white scare you.
Yeah, to me, you should never let that is filmed in black and white have it shy you away from the movie. You should always check it out and give it a chance. We wouldn't have a lot of the movies today that we do if it wasn't for this. And we're going to go from here into our fun facts about this movie.
Some fun facts about Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho are that the screenplay was written by Joseph Stefano, which was based on a 1959 book of the same name, which was written by Robert Bloch, which he loosely based the story on the crimes of Ed Gein. Janet Leigh obviously becomes the first Scream Queen from this movie. Psycho was nominated for 4 Oscars, including Best Supporting Actress for Janet Leigh and Best Director for Alfred Hitchcock. The film is considered by many as Alfred Hitchcock's best films and is ranked as one of the greatest films of all time. Psycho was the first American movie to show a toilet flushing. While filming Psycho, Janet Leigh was fine with the shower scene, but when she saw the movie for the first time, she realized how vulnerable females are in the shower and took baths for the rest of her life. I don't know how true that is, but that's just something I read on the internet.
I've heard that too. I don't know. I gotta believe. Either way, you're fucked.
I would think in a tub though you'd be more vulnerable because you gotta
You
push
gotta get
yourself
up.
up out of it.
Yeah.
Well, think of it this way too. You get shampoo in your eyes, you're fucked.
But maybe because with a shower though you have the curtain closed and the bath you have it open so you can see what's coming.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
I also read that Macon Psycho caused Walt Disney to ban Alfred Hitchcock from Disneyland.
Damn.
Alfred Hitchcock actually wanted the shower scene to be completely silent, but the music guy, Bernard Herrmann, felt different and made a score for it anyway, and Hitchcock immediately changed his mind when he heard his score that he made. And Hitchcock was actually so impressed with the score that he gave Herrmann a raise that was double his salary because the music made what he said was 33% of the effect of the movie.
I have to say about 72.
Yeah. While on set recording, Alfred Hitchcock referred to Anthony Perkins, who plays Norman Bates. He would refer to him as Master Bates on the set.
It's pretty cool.
Let's see. After Alfred Hitchcock decided that he wanted to make the movie for the book, he bought the book he brought the rights from the book from Robert Bloch for $9,000. And he did it so he could keep the ending a secret. And what he wound up doing was going and buying all the copies that he could find, just so he could keep it a secret. He went that far.
Impressive.
It says here that Alfred Hitchcock shot the movie in black and white because he thought it would be too gory in color. But the main reason was that he wanted to make the film as inexpensively as possible. And he also wondered if so many bad, inexpensively made black and white B-movies did so well at the box office, what would happen if a really good, inexpensively made black and white movie was made. So, after seeing Psycho, after Psycho was released, I should say, Janet Leigh received several threatening letters detailing what they would do to Marion Crane. Some so bad that she actually had to turn him in to the FBI. All the cast and crew, when they were filming the movie, they had to make a promise that they would not speak a word of the plot to anyone. And Alfred Hitchcock actually kept the ending to himself until it was time to shoot it. So no one knew how the movie was going to end until right before they shot the scene. Apparently, while writing the script for the movie, Joseph Stefano was in therapy dealing with a relationship problem between him and his own mother. And it says that the reason Alfred Hitchcock's cameo is so early in the film because he didn't want the audience to miss any of the plot by trying to pay attention to where he was.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He was in it, that's all that matters, really.
Yeah. And it says here that Paramount gave Hitchcock a very small budget to work with and gave most of the net profits to him, because they thought Psycho was going to be a huge flop. And he wound up making a fortune off of it. And also Alfred Hitchcock was quoted to say that Psycho was actually supposed to be a comedy.
What?
And of course I have to mention this because it is part of my favorite movie of all time. John Carpenter was influenced by this movie so much that the iconic Sam Loomis is Dr. Samuel Loomis got his name from Psycho.
Okay, so for toys, McFarlane has Movie Maniacs, Psycho, Norman Bates. Mezco has 2 Living Dead dolls. It's a set. They're both black and white, reenacting the famous shower scene from the movie. You can get Norman by himself, or you can get Marion and have the whole set. And also, Ruby's Costumes has a Norman Bates Motel neon sign. It says Bates Motel, no vacancy. I actually have that. It's made of plastic, but it is awesome when it's lit up.
The notable mention for Psycho has to be Psycho 2, 3, and 4, and not that Vince Vaughn remake crap. Part 2, next to Psycho is my first. Psycho 2 might even be my favorite of this franchise, honestly.
I have to agree.
But 3 and 4 are all very good movies, and I recommend everyone checking them out. Clockwork Christie, anything to say about them 3 movies?
Didn't Anthony Perkins direct one of them?
I think it was part 3 he directed. Maybe 3 and 4.
So that's a plus, little bonus fact.
Somewhere between science and superstition, there is another world. The world of darkness. Nobody expected it.
All right, let's see what they
Nobody believed it. And nothing could stop it.
There are no experts. You probably know as much about possession as most priests. Look, your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
I'm telling you that thing upstairs isn't my daughter. And I want you to tell me that you know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with my daughter except in her mind. You tell me you know for a fact that an exorcism wouldn't do any good. You tell me that!
The one hope. The only hope. The Exorcist.
Okay, our second movie of the night is The Exorcist. The original release date was December 26, 1973. The cast in it is Ellen Burstyn, Matt von Sydow, Linda Blair, and Jason Miller. IMDb summary says, when a teenage girl is possessed by a mysterious entity, her mother seeks the help of 2 priests to save her daughter. Now, starting out with this movie, we start out with Father Merrin at a dig in northern Iraq. We see signs of mother-daughter love, them two getting along, being playful like only a mother and daughter can, showing their love and affection for each other. We go from there to Father Karras at a confession, admitting that he's lost his faith in God. We see that the church is starting to be defaced, right at the point that Regan has a doctor's appointment. And at this doctor's appointment, she's seeing flashes of the demon Pazuzu. It's obvious that at this doctor's appointment, Regan is losing it, and the doctor suggests that Regan has a nerve disorder. From there, Karras's mom dies, who Karras was taking care of on his own. Mrs. McNeil has a party at her house, and Regan urinates all over the floor, embarrassing Mrs. McNeil. And we start to see signs of Regan really starting to lose it when she's in her room and her bed starts shaking out of nowhere at this party. We go back to the doctor's office, and the doctor asks Miss McNeil if Regan's had a history of using curse words or using foul language, and he tells Miss McNeil that Regan told him to keep your fingers away from my goddamn tongue. And from there, we're going to ask Clockwork Chrissy, what does she think about the movie thus far?
So far, it's finally started to pick up after being slow. Regan's starting to go crazy, it seems. Like she went from being this normal kid to just being gone.
I have to agree. At the doctor's office, the first visit, it really starts to show, and she really starts to act a little kooky.
And what are your thoughts on Pazuzu, ladies?
It's a little creepy. Yeah.
Alright, from there we're going to go back to Regan's house. And her room, the atmosphere in her room starts to change. Her room's cold enough to where you can see your breath in her room. Regan then has more doctor's appointments. She's upside down for hypnosis. A homicide cop then talks with Father Karras and asks him to help out. Father Karras, he suggests Mrs. McNeil get an exorcism. From there, we go into the infamous cross scene with Regan, more or less pleasing herself with a cross.
Viciously.
Yeah, viciously, bleeding very badly, saying, "Let Jesus fuck you, let Jesus fuck you, let him fuck you." Then grabbing her mom by the neck and telling her to lick me. And from there, we get the infamous head spin. Now, ladies, what are your thoughts on these few scenes here?
They were kind of grotesque-ish for that time. Bit much.
Yeah.
Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, after this we see... Is this where Regan slaps her mom and moves
Yeah,
to...
that was the same.
Yeah. So, Regan then slaps her mom and slides a big dresser over, about to drop it on her mom, telepathically. Karras talks to Miss McNeil once more about the exorcism, and then Karras talks to Pazuzu. Pazuzu keeps egging Karras on, and then proceeds to vomit in his face. Ladies, your thoughts on the vomit?
It was a good effect.
Did Father Karras look pissed off to you?
Yeah, considering that in that shot it was supposed to smack him in the chest, but it really smacked him in the face, yeah, I'd say he looked a little pissed.
Agreed. Karras recorded the conversation with Pazuzu and requested Father Merrin's help. Merrin, who nearly died from his last exorcism, agrees to come help Father Karras, and Father Merrin and Father Karras start the exorcism. We hear Pazuzu the demon call out Father Karras multiple times and tells him that your mother sucks cock in hell. Clockwork, any thoughts on this?
I mean, it's kind of funny, but kind of not at the same time.
How would you feel if it was your mother and the demon's egging you on? Rachel Rose?
I think that, to someone who is, Catholic and everything, and how much he knew about his mother, he probably found it really offensive and really probably really shocked him, you know?
Alright. From there we go into the infamous scenes of the exorcism. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. Marin, after a few minutes of them two, Marin and Father Karras trying to get this demon Pazuzu out of Regan, they decide to take a rest and repeat. And while Karras and Marin are resting, something in Father Marin tells them to go back and try it. As Father Marin goes in there, he dies from an apparent heart attack. But Father Karras is forced to do it on his own now. And ladies, what do you think about this? This is pretty much the conclusion of this story, this movie.
He did what had to be done.
Yeah. You didn't think that he'd be able to handle it, but I guess he handled it as good as he could for not ever having to do an exorcism or know anything about him, and then get thrown into having to do one.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty good. And, yeah, I mean, this movie, we're about to go into ratings now, and overall, in my opinion, for its time, there was nothing like this movie, and since this movie has been released and been seen by so many, there's much stuff that has been tried to be duplicated, which hasn't been done as well as this movie. And in my opinion, this movie is an 8.5. Clockwork Chrissy?
I give it a 7 out of 10. I like the effects and the makeup. I didn't like how much it dragged, especially in the beginning. And some of my favorite scenes were with Regan while she was possessed, so when a lot of the effects were in use.
Okay, Rachel Rose?
I give it a 10. I love this movie. I think it's great. That's all I can really say. It's scary. It's a good story.
Alright, now that everyone's given their ratings and reviews, I would also like to mention that Angry Al gave this movie a 9 out of 10. From here, we're going to go into our fun facts.
Some fun facts from the movie are that there was a voiceover actress for the demon part when Regan spoke. Her name was Mercedes McCambridge. She used to swallow raw eggs and chain smoke. She also had past drinking problems, but insisted on drinking whiskey because she knew that it would distort her voice and create the crazed mind of the character. She also insisted on a priest being present. She was also bound to a chair with pieces of a torn sheet to get a more realistic sound of the demon struggling against restraints. She later recalled the experience as one of horrific rage, and Friedkin said that the extremes she went through to keep the authenticity terrifies him. After shooting the movie and after its release, Linda Blair had to have bodyguards for up to 6 months afterwards because of religious groups sending her death threats, saying that the movie was glorifying Satan. The scene that Regan throws up on Father Karras was one take. The vomit was supposed to hit him on the chest, but it hit him in the face. The look of shock and disgust was real. In a later interview, Jason Miller, who portrays Father Karras, said he was very angry with the mistake. When Linda Blair had started filming her foul-mouthed dialogue, Max von Sydow was so shocked while filming that he actually forgot his lines. Linda Blair has now been known to say that she hates the cold due to being in the refrigerated bedroom for so long while filming. When adjusted for inflation, The Exorcist is Warner Brothers' highest grossing film of all time. But that's with the inflation, like 1973 figures to today. And also, if we were to adjust the grossing of this movie to inflation, it would be the highest grossing for an R-rated movie of all time.
Impressive.
The spider walk down the steps was deleted just before the film was released because Friedkin said that the wires that was used on the harness that the actress had to wear to perform the walk could not be hidden at the time. 30 years later, he changed his mind and added the scene into the 2000 version of the movie with the wires digitally removed. So that's why that scene wasn't in the, William O'Malley, who plays Father Dyer, teaches at Fordham University. He tells his students that the movie is in fact 80% based on a true story. The only differences were that it was actually a boy and not a girl, and it did not occur in Georgetown, D.C., but a town outside of the city in Cottage City, Maryland. And also the vomit was not pea green color. He claims everything else happened exactly the way they portrayed it.
Well, hold up 1 second. That's pretty fucking creepy.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you out there that don't know, we are from Maryland. We live here now. That blew my mind. Anyway. Yeah.
The Exorcist was the first horror movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture Academy Award. The white-faced demon shots were rejected makeup tests, so really, Max von Sydow was only 44 when this movie was made. He had to sit in a makeup chair for 3 hours every day to become the old priest Father Merrin. The only teaser trailer was, the original teaser trailer was banned from theaters because it was deemed too scary. Just a preview was too scary. William Friedkin wanted real emotion from the actors and actresses in the film. He would shoot guns behind them and shout action just to get their real startled reactions on film. He slapped William O'Malley in the face after several shoots of him reading Father Karras' last rites, and even went as far as putting Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn in harnesses to yank them around. At the time, the producers wanted a very young Jamie Lee Curtis to audition for the role, but her mother, Janet Leigh, said no. A guy actually sued Warner Brothers because when he saw the movie in a theater, he fainted and broke his jaw on a chair. He claims it was due to the subliminal images. Warner Brothers settled out of court with the man.
He got paid for that one. Pretty bastard.
William Peter Blatty, the author of the novel that is based on the film, was so upset that William Friedkin had deleted several scenes with that William Peter Blatty felt was key details for the movie. They finally reconciled years later, and Friedkin released the version you've never seen with the deleted scenes included. And now Friedkin says that's his favorite version of the film. The studio wanted Marlon Brando to play the role of Father Merrin, but Friedkin said he did not want the movie to be a Brando movie. Al Pacino and Jack Nicholson were also two of many men considered for Father Karras' role. And also it says that Variety magazine had said that Carrie Fisher and her mother, Debbie Reynolds, were also contenders for the role of Regan and Chris McNeil. And the best version of this film, I would say, is the new Blu-ray that was released, I believe, in 2012. It's a 3-disc set. The first disc includes the extended director's cut. The second disc includes the original theater version, and the third disc includes special features. There's a William Peter Blatty documentary in there. Also a Talk of the Devil, a never-before-seen documentary about real exorcisms. And it also includes a 40-page sample book from the Friedkin Connection, which tells about The Exorcist and is full of pictures.
The best Exorcist toys have been made by NECA. They have the cult classic 7-inch Regan Stair Spider Walk figure, the Possessed Regan Deluxe box set, which features Regan tied up to her bed with her head spinning, and it also plays the eerie theme music. And also the bobblehead of Regan, in which her head and the bed both rock.
Alright, for the notable mentions for The Exorcist,
We do not recommend the sequels to The Exorcist.
The Heretic is garbage. It would probably have to be repossessed with Linda Blair donning the makeup again. Well, not necessarily the makeup, some kind of makeup, but not the exact makeup.
And it's a comedy.
Yeah. Leslie Nielsen. I know it has brief appearances by, for all you wrestling fans anyway, Mean Gene Oberlin and Jesse the Body Ventura. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I do recommend that.
While watching corpses rise from the grave, board up the windows and doors, for it may be your life that you save. Beware of their bite, or its brains you'll crave. For outside the world looks so dark and gloomy, the undead are seeking out a flock of groupies. Sit down, relax, while the Harris Horror Hour brings you their top 5 zombie movies.
Alright, my top 5 zombie movies go like this. Number 5, Dead Snow. Number 4, Day of the Dead, the original. Number 3, Dawn of the Dead, the original. Number 2, Night of the Living Dead, the original or the remake. And number 1, The Return of the Living Dead.
Mine go from this. Number 5, Shaun of the Dead. Number 4, 28 Days Later. Number 3, Return of the Living Dead. Number 2, Dawn of the Dead, the original. And number 1, Night of the Living Dead, the original, although the 1990 remake by Tom Savini is great as well.
Alright, so my top 5 start off with Zombie as number 5. Number 4 would have to be Dawn of the Dead. Number 3 would be the original Night of the Living Dead. Number 2 is definitely Return of the Living Dead. And number 1 is definitely the Night of the Living Dead remake.
Now, I want to say for me, I had 2 honorable mentions, and one was Zombie, and then Dead Alive.
Well, my honorable mention is Zombieland. I don't care.
Yeah, mine too.
I don't care that it's a comedy. It's still kind of horror-ish, but it's great.
And then Angry Al, her top 5 was The Dead, Day of the Dead original, Dawn of the Dead the original, Return of the Living Dead, and Night of the Living Dead original. So, Night of the Living Dead, how many of you picked up for one?
I did.
You, Angry
No,
Al?
mine is the remake.
Okay. So,
I guess it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does matter, but I guess maybe my number 1 should be the original.
Well, the remake Barbara is more kick-ass.
I think that's probably why it's great.
well, the Return is mine just for a number of reasons, but I love it.
Trash!
Oh, God. Them boobies. Tonight. Alright, from here, we're going to head into our fan favorites, our fan feedback, and you fans been pretty good to us on our social media social media forums. Pardon me, I can't talk. And for those of you that want to follow us, you can send us a friend request on Facebook at Harris Hour, on Twitter at Harris Horror Hour, and on Instagram at Harris Horror Hour. All one word on Instagram. Now, the fans that gave us feedback, first off, consist of Ricky Hayes, and his top 5 zombie movies go like this. Nightmare City, aka City of the Walking Dead, which I've never seen. Number 4, Quarantine, which is very good. 3, Land of the Dead. 2, Return of the Living Dead. And number 1, Night of the Living Dead. Original or the remake, he said. From there, we go to Dirty Martinez, follower on Instagram. His number 5 movie is Evil Dead 2. Number 4, 28 Weeks Later. Number 3, Dawn of the Dead. Number 2, Night of the Living Dead. And number 1, Return of the Living Dead. Then we go to A Dawn on Instagram. And she only gave us 4, but her 4 picks were Resident Evil 2. Number 3 as Resident Evil. Number 2 is Shaun of the Dead. And number 1, Zombieland. So, Obviously, A. Dawn's probably a younger horror fan, but hey, I ain't knocking it. You like horror, so I would say take some of the movies we suggested and go check them out. But some people gave us ratings on the movies we covered tonight. Ricky Hayes rated The Exorcist 10 out of 10 and gave Psycho an 8 out of 10. Dennis Whitaker, who is the Harris Horror Hour, he's our cousin, more or less. He gave The Exorcist a 10 out of 10 and then gave Psycho a 9.5. And then this guy Matthew, our brother, he gave The Exorcist an 8 and Psycho a 10. And from here, we're pretty much going to close out this show. And episode 2 is in the books. Next week, we'll be covering Dario Argento's Suspiria and Lamberto Bava's Demons. It's going to be our Italian Horror Week, and these are Raging Roses picks for next week. If any of you fans have ratings you want to give these movies, be sure to reach out to us on the social media sites that I've done told you, and I'll repeat them one more time at the end. And also, our verses next week will be, not next week, for episode 3, will be Your Next versus The Strangers. And to me, I already know who I'm picking. You fans can pick who you want. That's how we decide who wins this, is by your votes. And we appreciate all the votes and the feedback we get. Be sure to rate us, subscribe to us on iTunes. And once again, our social media sites are on Facebook. You have to send us a friend request at Harris Hour, on Twitter at Harris Horror Hour, and on Instagram at Harris Horror Hour. So once again, thank you fans for listening, and we will see you for episode 3, our Italian horror show.
You're next.